live to Peter Switzer now. He is the founder of the Switzer Report. There's been plenty of economic data out this week, Peter Switzer. The markets are doing quite well. There's some pessimism in some quarters. What do you make of it all?
Well, I think the Reserve Bank Governor sort of touched on Tuesday with the reference to a gentle turning point for the economy. And a lot of economists kind of doubted that, and I must admit, I put a question to him at the National Press Club conference during the week and said to him, you know, I suspect you don't want to raise interest rates, cut interest rates again. He kind of agreed, didn't say yes. But I said, well, how big a budget deficit do you want from Josh Frydenberg? And he, you know, kind of sidestepped that question, but he is calling upon the government to spend more going forward so he doesn't have to cut interest rates. Now, this week, let me run through the data just quickly with you. We saw car sales were down about 8%. That wasn't a good number. But the services sector purchasing managers index, which tells you whether the sector is actually expanding or contracting, it went over 50, which means the sector is now expanding. We also saw the weekly consumer confidence number, Laura, go to rise by the highest amount since December. Job ads, the biggest increase in 7 months. Building approvals were down 0.2% in December, but up 2.7% for the year. So if you put it all together, I think the Reserve Bank Governor is right. We are seeing a gentle turning point. But yesterday, the retail numbers for December were pretty bad, down 0.5%. However, some economists quickly said, well, hang on, look at the quarter. The quarter was a really good number, particularly when you look at the Black Friday sales and the Cyber Monday sales. And so what they're now saying, and this is a big story, I think, those economists are saying the rate cuts are probably over.
Okay, so the economists had been predicting for a long time that we would see 2 rate cuts this year, so that may or may not happen. But also, can you talk me through why that's changed so much, but also the retail figures we saw yesterday, because of course December is such an important month. Many businesses, small and large, rely on this big selling period. Was it still underperforming? Did the bushfires affect it? What was going on there?
Yeah, there's 2 things. The bushfires definitely would have affected retail sales in the regions. That's obvious. But then again, a lot of the city people who couldn't go to the regions probably went shopping instead. I think that the fact that your generation in particular, Laura, has jumped on these Black Friday sales, which typically was an American thing. The day after Thanksgiving, Americans went out to shop. And then on Monday, when they went back to work, they used their boss's computer to, in those old days, to actually use the boss's computer to buy more stuff online. Now, Australians have picked this up. So November was a big number, up about 1%. And so that's changed the December figure. But also, I think a lot of Australians are rational. They know that after Christmas, a lot of the stuff they buy in December is going to be on sale. So they actually hold back their Christmas shopping till after Christmas. Particularly if you're a parent, you give your kid $200 for Christmas, and they'll get a lot more after Christmas than before. So I think that all those sort of demographic changes are working to make the December number less reliable. I'm waiting to see January to see what's really going on with the consumer.
Yes, OK. We'll look at the January figures. Also, keeping a close eye on house prices. They seem to be rebounding, but also the language of the Treasurer, Josh Frydenberg, in the last week or so. He's a little bit more pessimistic about the effect of the coronavirus than he was just a week ago. Now talking about a balanced budget rather than a budget surplus. Do you still think he's managing expectations here and he'll just get over the line, or is it looking a little bit more shaky?
Well, look, the reality is we don't know what the implication is going to be on the tourism sector from the coronavirus. You've got to remember, Laura, our major exports are number 1, coal, followed by iron ore, and then if you put together travel, education and personal travel, that's the 3rd biggest export. So that's going to be a significant hit to GDP. And if GDP is coming down, so are the earnings from Treasury for the budget. I think the bottom line is this, that most commentators are saying to the Treasurer, we no longer care whether you have a budget surplus or a balanced budget. get the economy going for the second half of this year. And so if he comes in with a small deficit or even a moderate deficit, if it's in pursuit of growing the economy, making sure unemployment keeps coming down, and that's been one of the good stories for the government, unemployment and employment. And so I think these are going to be the most important factors, where once upon a time, looking at the budget going forward, you were going to assess the Treasurer on the strength of the surplus or the balanced budget. Now I think a budget deficit is an irrelevant issue because we want this economy to grow.
But do you really think it's politically irrelevant when you roll out just before the election at the last budget that you're back in black, and then you kind of got to cross that out and change the advertising to almost or not quite back in black? It's a bit of a problem, isn't it?
It is definitely a problem, but I'm writing a brilliant piece for Weekend Switzer where I actually show that. But what I've actually shown is that and this was shown by the Reserve Bank Governor on Tuesday, business investment has fallen off a cliff. And the last time business investment was spiking was during the GFC, when Labor actually started spending a lot, didn't care about budget surpluses, spent a lot to save us from going into a recession.
Well, that's right. Just quickly on that, do you cast your mind back? I'm just trying to think when Wayne Swan stood up there and said the 3 budget surpluses I delivered tonight, and then the GFC came along. I don't think the coalition at the time gave him any leeway.
No, definitely not.
Yep.
So politically, they won't give him any leeway, and Labor might do the same. But the reality is the economy and business investment responded when government went in there and did something positive. And I think this is the main way in which ScoMo can turn around his pretty ordinary ratings in the polls, is by actually over the next 2 years getting business investment rising again. And if he does that, I think a lot of people will forget the Hawaiian bushfire experience, because there'll be lots of jobs, the economy will look strong, and that will be their strongest argument going into the next election campaign.